Welcome. My name's Gary Woodman. I'm Chief Executive of the Worcestershire Local Enterprise Partnership, and as part of our series with Harrison Clark Rickerbys, it's great to have Robert with us. So, Robert, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, good afternoon. Robert Capper. I'm partner at Harrison Clark Rickerbys, and I lead the commercial team, and I've worked in and around Worcestershire for more years than I care to think about.
So certainly, Robert, we've probably seen, kind of the lockdown, the kind of economy kind of literally come to that dead stop. What's certainly the feedback and lots of issues that you kind of seen with those type of clients at this stage?
I think over the course of the last 6 weeks, we've been on a journey, a fairly rapid journey. I think to start with, there was a sense of panic, which gave way then to a sense of trying to work out where people were at and what people were having to do in the very early stages. I think that then quickly settled, actually. I think people started then to work out how they were going to move things forward over the next few weeks. But then I think now people have actually got to realise it's the new normal, and are running their businesses as effectively as they can during furloughing and the government finance being available to them. And I think what's interesting is we're already, though, seeing the signs of people wanting to look beyond that and think about what does the future look like. I don't mean the long-term future in terms of 12, 18 months' time. I mean the future, the immediate future, in terms of probably the next month to 6 weeks. As the economy gradually comes back, what do they need to be doing to get ready to get back? What do they need to be doing when they do get back? And that's part of it. And then what do they do when they are back? I think they almost see that next stage in 3 parts: preparing to get back, the initial getting back, and then the, okay, we're back. What does running normal look like now? And we're seeing that journey across all our clients, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be technology, whether it be finance, whether it be services. That initial sense of shock and panic and awe, how do we deal with it, moving through it, but now very much the other side of it of, okay, how do we get back?
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, this recession that we're going to see is probably not like any other. I think we can normally predict a recession. We see construction often goes in first, then manufacturing, then retail can be sort of 3-6 months later. The fact that we kind of went off a cliff with lockdown, I think really means that actually all the businesses are roughly at the same stage, aren't they, in terms of those preparations?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of observations there, Gary. I think the one observation I'd make, first of all, that this is unlike any recession I've seen over my professional career over the last 25 years. I think Worcestershire historically hasn't suffered the big, deep troughs that other parts of the country have when there's a recession, but equally it could be said that we don't experience the great highs either that other parts of the country do. And we've always had a fairly balanced economy, which has led to us having a fairly balanced experience of both expansion and contraction within the economy. I think the difference this time, though, for Worcestershire, and again we're seeing it across all clients, is that this time we're affected as deeply and indeed as quickly as the rest of the country. And you're right, previously we perhaps would have seen construction going first and retail in last into the recession, and then construction start to come out and then retail starting to come out. But very much this time we all went in together, and whereas before it might have been a general roller coaster for us for a recession, I think this time it was more like the black hole at Alton Towers. We all plummeted straight down in it together, and that's both across the sectors in the economy, but I also think across the country as a whole, which is very different for Worcestershire. Certainly very different to 2008, 2013.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, I think the media, and in their usual way, there's a lot of doom and gloom and focus on the health side, but that economy side, as always, there are still some people who are doing quite well. There are some people who are finding a way, and there are yet some people who are actually really suffering. I suppose, does that sort of represent this in terms of your client base as well?
Oh, absolutely. It's back to that comment about the journey. I think to start with, the first week or two was interesting, shall we say, for clients. but very quickly, they acclimatised and realised that this was going to carry on for a good few weeks, if not months, and started to get on the front foot. And now there is a real sense that people are wanting to stride forward, and I'd almost hasten to say, crack on really. And certainly ahead of the Prime Minister's announcement on Sunday, there were lots of clients talking to us about what they wanted to be doing to get back, even in areas of heavy manufacturing, with large factories, with lots of industrial staff. How do they get back? And that those plans are ongoing.
Yeah, and so those type of inquiries that we're getting, having done the series with HCR around contracts and insurance and banking, you think the issue is going to move more now to health and safety, risk assessment, and those kind of issues?
We're seeing that already. So initially, the advice was all around furloughing and what does furloughing mean? How does furloughing work? Specific queries to furloughing. And our employment team were busy 24/7, literally 24/7, advising on furloughing. My commercial team, you won't be surprised, were advising on a lot of force majeure clauses. I think the team were doing that advice almost in their sleep by the end. It was almost nightmare, giving that much advice out all the time. It was constant. And that was the first week and a half, 2 weeks. But now it's, okay, how do staff come out of furlough? There's different furloughing questions. There's different questions about contracts and the contract. How do I vary this contract? How do I develop this contract? How do I move this contract forward? So the advice is shifting. There's still issues around employment, still issues around contracts, but it's moving. And at the same time, then the advice that we're giving from the banking and finance team around the loans and grants that are available, that's moved from what's available to, okay, how do I best deploy that money, and how do I actually use that money for the benefit of the business going forward?
Yeah, because there's definitely, there's been some businesses who've now accessed either C-bills or some of the other opportunities, but you've really got to use that money wisely. Over at the moment, we don't kind of quite know when the economy really is going to pick back up.
No, and I think anybody who professes to know the answer to that, I think it needs to take a long, hard look at how this whole situation has developed over a very short period of time. I think there was talk initially of the classic V-shaped recession, talk of a W, there's talk of an L. Who knows? And one thing for sure though is it has to end eventually, and the businesses that I'm talking to day in, day out across our range of clients are all saying, yeah, we know where we are, we know what we're doing, we know what we're going to get done, it'll end eventually. And there's a lot of positivity out there, and I think that's often overlooked in Worcestershire. A lot of our businesses here, really, really great levels of resilience, born out of long-standing trading or long-standing family, long-term shareholders, and that sense of digging in and getting on with it is very evident. But conversation with the client this morning being typical, they don't know whether it'll be a summer recovery, an autumn recovery, or summer 21 or autumn 21 before we get recovery, but they're digging in and getting on with it.
Yeah, and I think that resilience piece and businesses adapting, I think that is a strength of the kind of Worcestershire business community, of how they can just find a different way, move slightly into a different market. But yeah, picking the winners at the moment, I think is very difficult. Certainly from then, if we sort of move on and you can kind of see as we go forward, the government is starting to map out a kind of route way forward. Where do you think, in terms of the next sort of 3 months, what are those kind of important things that are in place that businesses can sort of hang their hat on and sort of move forward with?
I think without shadow of a doubt, Gary, the one overall issue for every business that every business is talking about is furloughing. We had a webinar last week for our clients, and we covered a range of issues. The one issue that kept coming back time and time again, more and more questions, both before, during and after, was furloughing. And I don't think the government can underestimate the importance of furloughing. And you've seen the numbers, how many millions of employees are now furloughed, and you've seen the cost of how many billions of pounds are now committed by the government. I think clients welcomed the announcement yesterday that it's been carried on until October. My sense, though, is there was disappointment that the government didn't operate some sort of part-time exception for people. I think that would have been a really, really useful tool, particularly for businesses as they're looking to get back. And I think the other thing that was unfortunate was that the Chancellor left it, the real announcement about the furloughing operations and wait until the end of the month. And in my experience, that just creates uncertainty, and that probably does cause some businesses to hit the pause button, or to some degree just slow down the process of looking to reopen. It doesn't stop them completely, but it certainly causes a lull. And I think that's the one thing the government needs to be very, very, very much aware of, is that uncertainty has an almost immediate impact which ripples.
Yeah, definitely. If there's that bit of uncertainty in the market, people will hold and wait, particularly as, like we've just said, how long is this for? Then, well, actually, waiting 2 weeks in something that's a bit unknown.
And I think that pause is an interesting issue. I think there was lots of people pausing around Brexit, waiting to see Brexit go forward. And I think that in many cases was an excuse not to do something. I think in this case, though, I don't see the pause as an excuse. I think it's genuinely, well, I don't know how furloughing is going to work. And furloughing is so important. And the numbers are so significant that people probably quite rightly feel that they need to know how that scheme's going to play out. And it's not like they're having to wait a couple of months. It's a couple of weeks. So why wouldn't they? But actually, the real issue is it creates that uncertainty, which creates people to pause or slow down, which then will have an impact on lag in the economy.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there around that place. And certainly more flexibility is coming into that furlough scheme, perhaps beyond where he's extended to in July, I think would also help. Because as we know, businesses don't necessarily go bust coming into the recession, but it's going out where they struggle with working capital and those pieces.
I think the interesting thing that comes out of yesterday, and it goes back to your question about timing. When do I see recovery? When do clients see recovery? Well, I think there's a big hint there from the government and the Treasury and all their economists who are no doubt running all of the models, is they see the furlough running until October. Yeah. This isn't going to be something that we're going to be in and out of. This isn't going to be a quick V-shaped recession that's done in a quarter. If it is a V, it could be 2 quarters at least. Okay.
And I mean, in terms of then local partners, I mean, HCR are a sort of huge local private partner, but do you think that sort of, the LEP and the Chamber and the Worcester Business Central and those sorts of organisations, what role do you think they can play?
I think the LEP and the county council, I think the district councils and indeed Worcester City Council, the Chamber of Commerce, the IOD, the CBI, FSB, I think they've all got a role to play. I think the role to play this time is very different to 2008, 2013. You and Peter Pawsey, as then chairman of the LEP, did great things with the county in infrastructure in 2008, 2013. I think that was very much what was needed. And we're now reaping the rewards, aren't we, of the infrastructure projects that were brought forward then in that time. I think this time, though, it's more about business support, direct business support. I think it's about helping, supporting, mentoring, coaching businesses to start to get back. Because actually getting back doesn't just mean going in, opening the door, switching the lights on. It's actually working out how they need to go back to business and what shape that takes. And for every business, it's different. And within every business, it's different. So you look at, for example, Marks and Spencer's on the high street at the moment. That's a constantly evolving way of them operating that shop. Well, that will be for every retailer across the whole of the county. And retail is a huge part of the county's economy. And in the same way, manufacturing, how Morgan Motors will reopen will be completely different to how Worcester Bosch reopens. And I think that's where the support agencies across the county can really help. But I then think once they're open, businesses will need support again and coaching and mentoring to actually work through the opening and then everything that comes out of it. Because it's going to take, it isn't going to just be a flick of a switch, is it? And back in a week. It's going to be a 3-6 month process. And I think that's the role of the LEP and the Chamber and the County Council and the District Council to provide that support.
Yeah, and certainly giving people that confidence to go back. I think that's probably the early thing that we've seen from this week, having after the Prime Minister's announcement on Sunday, is you can see that even in the workforce, and that's quite a small team. You've got a couple of people who really want to go back. You've got a couple of people who are going, well, actually, he said work from home if you can, so we'll continue on that. But also, even if it gets a bit sort of easier, hang on, let's not rush this. So you can nearly see that within even a small team that we've got.
I think confidence is two sides, though, isn't it? There's confidence of getting employees back, and you're absolutely right. We're thinking here, our managing partner and business director are working with our support services teams to work out how we bring our staff back over the next few weeks and months. And we've got 9 offices around the country, and every one of those is different. So there's that aspect of bringing back your employees, but then there's another aspect then of confidence for customers, confidence for clients, confidence for consumers. How comfortable are people going to be walking down Worcester High Street to go shopping afterwards?
Yeah.
And again, I think that's part of the role of the county council and the local councils to actually encourage and support people going back into the high streets and the attractions, because we all know retail's a huge part of the economy, but so is tourism. And to get the visitors back into the county will be really important.
And I think that's a really important message for us to kind of take back to that kind of partnership that's building that economic recovery plan to kind of build that confidence, not just for employees and business returning, but you're right, visitors and people coming in to spend money is actually, that's what drives the economy. So,
going back to Morgan Motors, I think that the figure is something like they have 30,000 visitors a year doing the factory tour. And that doesn't just go into the factory, does it? That goes into the factory tour, that goes into the shop, that goes into the coffee shop, that then goes into the local hospitality industry as well. So they're just one example in Malvern. And then you look at, for example, the 3 counties and the work that Kit Nottage does there with his various shows. Again, doesn't just bring money to the 3 counties showground, it brings money to the whole of Worcestershire. And that will be a really important role to give people that confidence to come back, won't it?
That confidence factor is a huge thing as we move forward. And certainly, I've kind of enjoyed these kind of series, and I think we can keep them going because I think people can just dip in and recognise that they can go to their professional advisor with lots of questions at this time and kind of dip in and get that advice from a whole host of routes.
Yeah, and I think it's important that across the county, the professionals are there to support, because actually there's some very different challenges this time around than previous recessions. So certainly the 2 or 3 recessions that I've worked through, and I think actually, whether it is around the specifics of furloughing or it's around C-bills or force majeure, or whether it be particular accounting and tax issues, people need to know that their professional teams are with them.
Brilliant. Thank you, Robert.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.